Hello, hello. This is, and we have an echo. Hang on a second here, folks. This is live radio, and we are sure getting the rewards of it right now. So here we are. I want to welcome all of you to our show this week. And we are going to give you some truth, some information, some knowledge, and the mysteries of life. And you have a hard time finding any of this except right here on the Universal Consciousness Show. My name is Aage, and I'm one of the hosts, and I'm here in the southwest of the United States. My co-host Diana is over in Europe, in Germany, some 7,000 miles away. Are you there, Diana?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
All right. And for those of you that is listening, if you want to hear this show again and go back and get references and stuff, and you can find it in many different places, including Facebook and many other places on the net and the social media, and our website. It is archived at www.aage-nost.com. And look under blogs or mystery, and you will find the show. And you will also find it on www.universal-consciousness-show.com. And as I also would say, keep a pen and some paper close by, because we may be giving you some sources and some information that you want to write down. We're known to do that. So, and also, if you know someone that does not have access to a computer right now, but you think they would enjoy listening to the show, call them and tell them to listen live at 701-719-9704. Oh, don't you wish you had that pen close by? Now, I'll say it again. And that is 701-719-9704. And for those of you that want to know more about us, the hosts here, just go on the website and scroll down and find the some of the shows that we've done by ourselves, and then you will learn a lot more. And tonight or today or this morning or wherever you are around the world, we are having a very interesting and exciting guest. And what we're going to do, we're going to teach you or talk about some of the more finer and more exciting things of the mind, because this particular show will have a very it's close to my heart, because our guest, he is Shannon Panzo. He is an American living in Australia. Shannon Panzo, PhD. He runs the ZOXProTraining mind development course. And I actually used to travel around the United States teaching this course some 24 years ago. And he's a tremendous mind. He's an expert in the brain management. He teaches mental photography and the practical use of photographic memory. And also he's a mentor to many people, a sought-after speaker, an author, and a professional coach to both business and private people. Well, like I said, he's an American now living in Australia, and he spends his time teaching people how to make their lives better by teaching them how to use their brain the way it was intended to be used, and not the way the the school system teaches us. Slip of the tongue there, but it was intended. So what I want to say first, I want to say hi to Shannon here. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Augie, for that.
yeah.
Thank you, Augie, for that great introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. And I tell you, before we even go much further, I want to expand a little bit about why this kind of information and what you're teaching is so special to me. Because, like I said, 24, 25 years ago, I was traveling around teaching it, and it is really responsible for me being able to do many of the things that I have done. And when we're talking about the ZOXPro Mind, I mean the mind, the training course, it's probably unknown to many people. But what we used to do, we put on a course that lasted 5 evenings, and we taught people how to assimilate information out of a book at the rate of 75 to 100,000 words per minute with 95% retention. And I tell you, it is probably one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done in my life. And I learned a lot, and I was able to help a lot of people. And there are some phenomenal stories that I'm not going to bore too many people with it right now, but there are people that came to the course. They were dyslexic. They couldn't hardly read at all. And after a few days with us, they were reading with the rest of them and scoring in the high 90s and the 80s and so on. So there were really no difference from other people. And if somebody is in college or in school right now, you really need to look at this because it has done amazing things. During that year, I probably plowed through well over somewhere around 1,000 books. And that doesn't make sense, but with this kind of training, you can do that. So I have been probably blabbing enough here. I want to bring Shannon on and maybe have him talk a little more. But Diana, you wanna go next here.
Yes, yes. Hello, Shannon, and thank you so much for
Hello,
being here today.
hello,
Could you,
Diana.
hi, could you start by telling us just in a nutshell your story and how did you end up on this way in your life by teaching mental photography and this abstract knowledge?
Well, uh, the story started long time ago in a faraway nation called the United States, where I'm no longer residing at. But what happened is I got involved with using this training for myself, and I found that it was so very practical in so many different ways so that I basically I had a circumstance where I was about 5 months after I had actually started doing this. It had raised my awareness, my perception of everything happening around me. I saw the truth in what was happening around me. Uh, I had some very dangerous circumstances happen to me, which I should have been dead at. I walked away from these things. Uh, Frankly, I got blown up, uh, whereas I should have been scattered all over the room. But instead, I lived with everything still intact, and I walked away without a scratch. And oh, needless to say, people were rather perplexed as to how that can actually happen. But whenever you tap into this area of the brain that we're accessing, uh, the impossible becomes reality. And
Mm.
the immense applicability that I've solved back then initiated me to go further and further into the course and teaching the course. And eventually I was working with Richard Welch, the founder, for 17 years at his office. And I continued to work with him after that. And we co-developed a lot of things after that as well. And that leads me pretty much up to where it is today. We took ZOXProTraining on the internet in 2008. It's been a it's been a wonderful thing that's been out there. We haven't really had to change it much since because it's always been very applicable. It was developed from the actual seminar, and uh, and that's where that's where we're at. We continually have great results with people getting hold of it
Sounds
and
wonderful.
using and using it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that once you learn it, it's kind of like riding a bicycle. You don't have to use one for 10 years, but you get on it and you can still do this stuff, you know. So you mentioned Richard Welsh, and I ran into him in Omaha when he was teaching the course there, and we became very good friends. And I joined up with him, and I learned an awful lot from him, and we kind of overlapped in some area. There were things in the media that he was scared of doing. He didn't want to get on TV or on the radio or anything. So he said there was one time he called me and he says, "Oh, hey Aage, you're going to be on TV tonight." And I said, "Huh?" And he says, "Yeah, you're going to get on. I think it was Channel 5 in Omaha. They want to have a little story about the course." And I says, "Oh, okay." So he gave me the information, and there I was. He set it up like that, and because he didn't want to do it himself, I think he was maybe a little self-conscious about something. I'm not sure, but we overlapped that way, and it worked very well. And I could start seeing the interest and the results from people that just totally blew me away.
Well, I like to personally, I like to have other people talk about their results with the business rather than me talking about so much about the business myself. Simply because it's one thing for me to be blowing my own horn. It's another thing for people to be blowing my horn for me. It's much more reliable, and it really gives a lot to the accountability of what I actually teach. And
Yeah.
so that really does make a great difference. I could stand up on a soapbox, but I'm not going to get nearly the notice as to if people are having results with what I teach. That's going to get the notice, and that's what we look at. And it's the same thing with how Richard approached things. He
Mhm.
wanted he wanted other people to tell others about this. So in that regard, yes, he was acting in his normal accord.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And what when we're talking about using the brain, and I've discovered there is two different things here. One is the brain and the other one is the mind, and this is an interaction between the two of them, and specifically the brain, because when you are dealing with the subconscious, with a lot of this goes into, it is stored in the programming in the subconscious, and we have access to it from it there. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the how the information may be going into the brain where we have access to it, and maybe a little bit about the process, just a little bit, so we can get a little bit of an understanding.
Well, I guess let's jump up the side of the mountain here for a moment. Basically, what we're doing here through the use of the photographic memory, which we're all born with, through the use of that, we are actually using what is now referred to as applied quantum physics. Now, quantum physics tells us that everything depends upon energy, frequency, things along these lines. So everything that we do, everything that we see, touch, feel, our own being has to do with energy, frequency, waveform, even to even to the most minute particle or waveform type energy. Likewise, the words on the written page are the same in that regard. They too have energy behind them. Our brain literally works like a radio transceiver, to make it very, very simple,
Mhm.
and is able to take in huge amounts of information in very little time. And because of this, we can use the photographic memory to take in huge amounts of information and have it available to us at any time in the future once we've done this in this particular way. And and then it's simply a matter of us being in situations where we need it, and we can call it up and then use it. we find that, uh, uh, for instance, a mechanic may have 20 different 20 different manuals that they have to reference for even one engine. And yet, once they've manually photographed all those manuals, they can easily reference all all the particulars about the engine, all the things that they have to do, all the things that they have to watch out for, repairs, maintenance, etc., all the way down, all the way down without having to go back to the manuals and searching for that one remote piece of information. Having things at hand like that makes your job very effective, very efficient. The same thing is true when it comes to business people. Business people need to make decisions very quickly, very effectively. And this enables a business person to take a huge amount of pertinent data and turn that into viable decisions that they can make very quickly. Recent studies have determined that we're having around 35,000 decisions to make every day. And of course, the more higher up the ladder you go, the more responsible your decisions are, and they affect more people. So it's very important that you make very valid decisions that are going to stand the test. So when it comes to decision making, information is king. The more good information you have, the better your decisions are going to be. So that gives you a nice little starting point where all we can go with this. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds pretty close to what I would have said if I was you. I tell you what, for the listeners right now, if they're on the computer, and why don't you give them your website also, which they can go to and maybe just kind of look around while they even listen to the show here. Maybe you could throw a web page out there for them.
Okay. Well, the web page is actually, it's going to be under ZOXProTraining, but the link that I want you to use today, specific to this program, is it is a link that we've created specifically for this. Think of Zox Me Now. Now, that means it's zox.me/now. If you type in zox.me/now, N-O-W, very short, very easy.
Yeah.
Just type that in, and that'll take you right to the website. That way you can get right to it with a nice little URL. You won't have to put much into it. And it's easy to remember. Zox Me Now.
Yeah, that should be easy enough. And you were mentioning working with a mechanic working with engines, and there's a story that I want to mention because both Richard and I, we went out to Denver, and we taught this course to a flight school out there. And he may have told you about this, but these were people that was flying turboprop airplanes, and it's a little complicated. There's a lot of things to watch for, and what some of the feedback that we got afterwards, that not all of the students at the flight school took the course because of there was a little bit of extra cost to it, but the ones that did always graduated in the top of the class. They were the top level, so to speak. And there were one of them that was out there, and this came back to me from the chief pilot of the school down at Arapahoe County Airport. And he said that one of the students was out there with an instructor, and they had an engine problem, and that showed up on the panel with a flash of light in one of the indicators, but for some reason there was just a flash, and the student caught that, the instructor didn't. So the student shut down the engine before even the instructor got his hands on anything, and that saved the engine, because otherwise they probably would have, because they were in the big crack in one of the in the blades in it, and that probably could have tore the whole engine apart. So they were very happy about that, because of his field of vision was so much wider. He was able to see on the right side where that little flash in the annunciator panel, where it happened. So there's stories like this. And what I also noticed, there was one kid that came to the course that I was teaching. And he, well, he was about 16, 17, something like that. So dyslexic, he could hardly read at all. And we do a reading test in the beginning, and he was give him 5 minutes, and he was about 3 or 4 lines down the page, and he couldn't remember anything that he read. And by the time he was done, he was reading with the rest of them. There were no difference. And we all went on, and many years later, well, a few years later, I think it was 3 or 4 years, 5, 6, I don't know. Later, he called me and he's just wondered, what should I do? He says, I'm, doing this, but it's not really getting me anywhere. I can read books all right, and remember all right, but what should I do with myself? So I asked him if have you considered doing something overseas? And he said, oh, he was in the process of learning French, I think, at the time. And I told him, give me your phone number, I'll get back to you. I just happened to know a diamond cutter over in Antwerp, in Antwerpen, if you're in Germany or in Europe. And then I called him and I asked him, how would you like to have an apprentice? I have this kid here, he's got great potential, and the guy wasn't interested, but I talked him into it. So they got together, and the kid went over there, and he got trained in diamond cutting. And I think 10 years after that, I made the connection for the two of them, he called me again, and he said he thanked me because he was doing really well with it. That year in a US dollar, he was probably going to net himself around $500,000 in pay because, hey, that's a high priced industry. And he was very, very thankful for the ability to be able to do that diamond cutting industry, because that is so accurate and so much math, and you got to really know your stuff when you go in there. And I don't think he would have been able to do that without knowing what he was able to learn through this mind development course. And I imagine, Shannon, you heard stories like this, and this is just one that was very personal to me.
We have literally countless good stories
Yeah.
like that. Okay, uh, the main thing is people need to understand that first they do have the ability because you're born with it, and we have people that are increasing. They have these dead dodo businesses that are not moving, and they're getting these businesses back online. They're getting them revitalized. They're able to bring in new clients, new people, and things like this, even in a recessive market. Uh, Things that are just not happening for other people. Uh, that's that's just one common occurrence. Whenever you have people going to school, they're experiencing information at a completely different level. So it enables them to gain access to all the information that the courses offer. And whenever they say the truth is out there, the truth really is out there. This is a great truth detector. This tells you what is real and what isn't. You become so accurate with the information. You can actually tell uh, what is real information, what is fake information. You heard about fake news. Well, you can tell the difference simply by the fact that it doesn't have the same frequency, and you feel that. So there's so many different avenues to this, and information is only where this starts. Your applicability throughout what is happening in your brain, we're actually growing our brain in a dynamic function. This is called advanced neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
and this is what we're talking about on the webpage. Now, what that means is your brain is dynamic. Everything that you do, everything that you experience changes your brain a little bit. But to have your brain change a lot in a very short amount of time is something that's rather unheard of. Now, we're talking about changing the brain in a very constructive way. We're not saying this in a detrimental way at all, but in a very constructive way, you can have phenomenal things happen. Creative abilities, psychic abilities. There's endless potential based upon you, the individual, as to where you take this. Whenever I'm doing coaching, one of the first things I ask people, what is your driving force? Most people don't even know that.
Mhm.
What is going to make you happy in life? Again, most people don't realize what that is. I set them on a course. Find these things. They are very important to you because by knowing those things, you can direct yourself in how your life unfolds. Being able to tap into your subconscious and find the programs that are right for you to move yourself in the right direction. Again, I teach all these things.
Mhm.
And this is very holistic. It takes all the aspects of the person into account. Very, very few systems out there will ever do that. A lot of these systems are herky-jerky out there, and all they do is confuse people. This here is to help people gain true clarity in life and move them in ways that they've never been moved before. It's amazing. It's amazing being a part of it.
Yeah. And what I noticed is that it is so simple. So simple. Now, I didn't say easy because there's some effort involved on our part, but it is simple. We found that all we have to do is to manipulate the brainwave pattern a little bit, lower it into the alpha range, which is pretty simple to do, which you know how it's simple. So then when we get it in there, we develop a path into the subconscious mind, and the material we put in there, we develop a path going in and out of the subconscious so we have access to it. And I really had fun going to libraries when I got to a new town. I went to the library and I had grabbed a stack of 10 books and walked over to a table and I sat there and just turned pages. And there were one time there was a guy sitting at another table. He was sitting there watching me, and I didn't know that. So he, after a while, I think after the third book or so, he came over and says, "What are you doing?" And I says, "I'm reading." And he, I remember him standing there with a blank stare on his face, and he wanted to know how. And he sat down, and we had a nice talk, and he understood. It is really fairly simple because now you got it simplified. Now you can even do it on the internet. So we didn't have that back then.
Well, yeah, our reach is worldwide simply because this is available throughout the internet, and that's where ZOXPro training comes in. And ZOXPro training is very adaptable to virtually anything you want to throw at it.
Yeah.
The main thing is first you learn it, and then you use it, and you use it, and you use it.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the nature of the mental photography, because of the nature of the training itself, as you grow through time, you'll find more and more ways to use this. And
Mm-hmm.
you've only made one investment. That's the practical nature of it. If there was ever a if there was ever a one course fits all course out there, this is definitely it
Yeah.
because it's so flexible as to what you can use it for.
Yeah.
Not only does the mental photography give you the information that you need on a daily basis or a lifetime basis, it also exercises the brain in phenomenal ways and makes things possible where everybody else is struggling to figure out how to do these things. We're 40 years ahead of what science is now revealing.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what, Shannon, we're about 30 seconds away from a break here. Let's do that. Hang on to that thought, what you were doing right now about how actually this is happening and what you're doing. So let's go to that break just about any time now. I think that will work if we can get Ira to do that.
Listen to the L&M Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from lnmradionetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
Ben Franklin said, "If you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today." Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change.
L&M fans and late-nighters around the world, have you captured something on that photo or video of yours? Send in your photos and videos of ghosts, orbs, UFOs, Planet X, or just about anything content related by submitting them to the Late Night in the Midlands Facebook group or fan page, or you can submit them on Twitter using hashtag L&M Radio. And if you would rather stay anonymous, then email them to us at mv@latenightinthemidlands.com. We will share them at our new fan page on the L&M website and may even ask you to come on air a few minutes and tell us about your photo or video. Late Night in the Midlands. We're building a bridge to the truth and beyond.
The Late Night in the Midlands radio network is deeply devoted to you, the listener. We feel it is necessary to bring you all of the information that you can use in your life. Each and every day you will find something to listen to here. And whether you come away from the shows informed, inspired, or entertained, it is our passion. We don't bow to corporations, and we don't have handlers to tell us what not to talk about. We bring you everything. Late Night in the Midlands, however, is fully listener supported. We need your help to stay on the air and to make sure that we get the bills paid. We need your help to keep the truth alive. If you feel that you have gotten anything out of Late Night in the Midlands, we would appreciate your support. You can become a subscriber and help us out on a monthly basis, or if you'd like, a one-time donation is fully appreciated as well. Every year, the average household in America spends over $3,000 on entertainment alone. If you could help us with just a tiny fraction of that amount, you would make all of the difference. Go to latenightinthemidlands.com and click on the subscribe button. Thank you, and as always, keep yourself informed.
Hello, hello. And we are back with the Universal Consciousness Show. And we are talking with Shannon Panzo in Australia. He is teaching the ZOXProTraining mind development course, and we're getting into some really interesting things here. And we have heard some of what this can do for people. And there is a video of actually a testimony of a doctor that I think Shannon wants to say a few words on, and then we will run the short video so you could see what the doctor is saying.
Well, Basically, the video footage that I have is a testimonial from a doctor. He's a chiropractor, and he got his doctorate's degree through the use of mental photography. It also added to his quality of life while he was going to school, and I'll let him tell his story. This story is being given to you by Dr. Ted Valley. And so I guess at this point here, just play the play the video or
Yeah,
audio,
let's
and
do.
let's get on with it.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll be right back after. But I think it's about 3 to 4 minutes.
I'm Dr. Ted Valley, and if you found your way to this page, it means you're interested in mental photography. It doesn't matter how you got here. All that matters is that now you're here. To lead in, I'm going to start with my credentials. I hold a doctorate in chiropractic. I have many professional certifications, totaling over 400 hours that I achieved while in chiropractic school. I also worked part-time, 20 plus hours a week, while in attendance. How is that possible? This is a medical program, you might ask. Well, mental photography is how it's possible. I went from studying 30 plus hours a week, as you're supposed to as a graduate student, down to 2 to 5 hours a week. Doesn't seem like it's possible, but if you pursue the program and you follow the instructions, it's more than possible. It's impressive, really. Before chiropractic school, I had a bachelor's degree in health sciences, pre-med, and I always considered myself to be a very passionate student, a good student, but mental photography made me a great student. It was more of a life-changing experience than what I can even describe. So if you will join me, let me take you on a little bit of a journey of what mental photography can do for you. Hi. Now, we talked a little bit about me. Now let me tell you a little bit about what mental photography is and how it can help. So I'm sure that you get stressed, whether it's for work, you got a lot of papers to go through, you got deadlines to meet, you don't know how you're going to get through all the information that you need. Or maybe you're a student, and like me, you had to really figure out how to get all the information that you need in your head. Well, that's where mental photography comes in. Again, as I stated earlier, I spent 30 plus hours a week like a good student, and I was still failing classes. It didn't seem like I was doing anything wrong, but still I wasn't reaping the rewards. And then mental photography came in. I searched the internet far and wide trying to find that one thing that was really going to change my life for the better and get me through the program that I needed. Turns out, mental photography was it. If you implement the procedures as they're shown and you follow the directions through the program, there's no way you can fail. You go from studying 30 plus hours a week to a fraction of that, 2 to 5 hours. How much better would your life be? How much more time could you spend with your family? How much more fun could you have in life if you didn't have to focus so hard on your studies? For me, being able to spend more time with my wife changed our relationship for the better. Nothing could have changed my life more than having the ability to spend time with her, because she, outside of my education, is what matters most to me. My family is paramount, as I'm sure it is for you. Everyone has different goals, everyone has different passions. Mental photography allows you to pursue those while achieving whatever your goals are. Whether it be academic, whether it be business, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that mental photography will change your life, hands down, for sure. Yes, I was able to master material that otherwise would have taken me years to master in a matter of days. Doesn't seem real, I know. Doesn't seem possible, I get it. But in reality, if you follow the program, it is possible.
Wow.
We have to thank Dr. Ted Valley for that assessment. That is a really clear assessment as to what people experience. Many people are so astounded by the results they can't even express themselves in that sort of way. So again, this is very important for people all over the place. I hear all the time, I can't remember what I just read. No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay? It's because they were taught in school. Big problem there. Schools don't teach this. Why? It's too effective. It'll put the school systems out of the job. That's why they don't teach it there. What if you have a class full of children that are genius, they're 12 years old, and they're already working on their second college degree? Well, the teachers have to then learn this just to keep up with them. And by the way, these overloaded classes full of 30, 40, 50 children, you won't need that anymore. The teachers become mentors. They have a class of 3 or 4 children, and they mentor those children into being productive adults instead. Huge change to the system. Well, they're not ready for change. They don't want this. Individual people, just like you, want this and need this in your life. This is the hope for the future of everything that you can imagine. This will change everything in the world if it goes out that far. And it really comes down to people just using it, just using their natural abilities. We use so very little of our brain. I know for a fact that everybody has it available to them to use this, but they got to get rid of this information that the school system knew everything. The school system didn't. They're very selective of what they do. It's like people that are dyslexic. Very few people, and I get this all the time, very few people are actually tested for dyslexic in the school system. They'd rather be putting people on drugs which are actually acting against the dyslexia, and not actually dealing with a different style of learning. They don't want to be involved in doing that. And most dyslexic people are actually quite brilliant, usually genius. Mm-hmm. So we see all these different things happening because we're sitting on this side of the table. And what I offer is I offer a different way, a new way to do things. But you're going to have to deal with some beliefs along the way. And that's part of the cycle. We show you how to deal with those things. The main thing is through use, you get to see the rewards. And this is exactly what Dr. Ted Valley was on about. He saw the rewards. He's able to have his doctorate's degree now because of the rewards he got. And he was able to decrease his study time down. Now, he decreased the study time down to 1/10 of what he was using before. We've seen plenty of people go down to seriously getting a doctorate's degree minutes per week. Well, that's not for everybody, but we've seen it. We've seen it plenty of times. So our brain is capable of doing phenomenal things, but it takes a person the desire and the doing to actually make it all work. So anyhow.
Yeah, I think that when you start on something like this, make the commitment to finish. Because there are people that they sit down and look at something for 20 minutes and says, nah, I don't think that works, without really trying it. Because I have seen it, many others have seen this working, so that's why I'm talking so strongly about it. And sorry if I broke in on you there, but that's my thought.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind. The main thing is, Aage, I think that you see the same thing that I see, and that is, if you really want hope for the future, if you really want to see this world dig itself out of the mess that it's made for itself, it needs to do it from a baseline of intelligence, an intelligence that is not expressed today. Instead of us using our heads, we're not using that at all. We need to be having everyone use their intelligence to make this world a better place. And that's really the message here. That's where it starts. And this is also, it's not just a gratuitous thing for those people. This is an individual thing for each one of those people. They get to explore themselves at a whole new level. They get to figure out what actually matters to them in their life, and they can strive to attain those things and maintain those things within their life. There's so much to offer, and each individual has their own way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it comes down to the individual. What is it going to be? Are you going to sit on the couch and not do anything for the rest of your life? Or are you going to move yourself and actually do something? What's it going to be?
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
And like I said, it is fairly simple. The process itself is very simple. You sit down and you just put your state of mind into the alpha range, and then there's a process for this where you just turn pages and you bypass the conscious mind, putting the information directly into long-term memory, and then when you're done with it, you then go into long-term memory to retrieve the information, because it was never placed into long-term memory. So you get the answer when you're using triggers and you ask questions, and it is really simple once you follow that process. And think of this: if kids was taught this in school, yeah, you would have PhDs by the time they were 16 or 14 or 12. But the thing is that that's a little early to get out in the work life, don't you think? They still want to play a little bit by the time they are 12. And hey, with me, I wanted to play when I was 16. So, but the thing is, you could go and get another PhD and a third one. Think of the phenomenal mind and information you can have then entering into the work life, and what you can do with that later on. What do you think of that?
Well, this kind of reminds me of a story that I heard about this famous orchestra conductor.
Mm-hmm.
The famous orchestra conductor was being interviewed one time, and whenever he was being interviewed, his actual day occupation was brought up. He was a garbage collector. He was a guy that went around with on the truck and collected garbage. And the interviewer said, "Well, why do you do that?" He says, "Well, that's what pays the bills. Being a world-class conductor doesn't pay the daily bills. You only get paid whenever you're conducting an orchestra. But to pay the daily bills, I'd rather do this." And he basically had chosen that as his path as to what he liked to do. And he was great at providing a public service, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what level of intelligence people are at. People will always seek they will decide what they want to do for them. That's what intelligence gives us. It gives us massive choice, not indecision. It gives us the ability to make the decision. And this is what's so important. Whenever people read, most people only maintain or retain 5% of the information. It's because our brain works that way with short-term memory. And I could go into detail, but let's not worry about that. There's later time for that. Whenever you're using the photographic memory or the mental photography in this way, you get 100% of the information. Retention is for life because you bypass the short-term memory. You put it directly into long-term memory where it's available to you forever. You don't lose it.
Yeah.
People are always amazed at my ability to recall information from all over my life. It doesn't matter. I treat all information equally. To me, because I use this process myself, to me, what I dealt with as a child, I can call up today and still use that information today like I just heard it yesterday. Mm-hmm. Okay? If that isn't the photographic memory, well, it's actually the eidetic memory, but that's what it's all about. People have these things, they're born with them. This is the way that we learned everything in life up until the time we learned to read. And reading is very destructive to that because it works in opposition to the way the photographic memory is meant to function. So if we encourage that photographic memory to come back, then we then are taking control of our own life. We then can make the proper decisions how our life is going to unfold from that point on. And yes, this will affect others in a positive way as well. Those same people that you care about will be affected in a very similar fashion because they're going to see the positivity come up within you. They're going to be affected in a positive way as well. It's like the ripple effect in the pond.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, once people start seeing you excel at something, they're going to wonder, what did he do? Or what does he know that I don't know? So, you're actually teaching by default other people to also become better by doing it. And that's what I noticed. People looked at me and say, what's he doing? And it makes you feel good somehow.
Well, of course it does. And the thing is there's not enough people doing it. I mean, there's millions of people that have done our system, but there's still not enough people doing it to really make a difference. You got to figure you got billions of people on this earth, over 6 billion people. We're barely scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Even with 1 million people, we're barely scratching the surface as to making a difference yet. Okay, so it really depends on each individual getting out there, learning to do this, and doing it with consistency, doing it with commitment, because the end result will be there. It will change your life for the good.
And it is a thing that I used to use the term that everybody can do this, and then I discovered that now there is a segment of people that can't, and those are the ones that does not understand the language. If you can understand, that's what I found, that if you can't understand the language of what you are photographing, then you can also not retrieve it in something that is understandable. Then I think is that about the only restriction that you can think of too?
Well, there is a starting point for people, but really, if they photograph language dictionaries, translation dictionaries and language dictionaries, like even the dictionary, the thesaurus, things along these lines, if they start with photographing those, it gives them an intelligible point of reference. It gives them the frequency. And even if they're dealing with a second language, they can photograph the translation dictionaries there. And that actually gives them the frequency, the energy and the frequency involved in speaking those languages, so that immersing themselves within the confines of where those languages are used, they quickly adapt themselves to the new language usually within a matter of a few weeks. And that is that's quite phenomenal when you think whenever you go into these circumstances, you may not know anything about the language. We've had people come into our training, and in 2 weeks' time, they didn't speak any English. And in 2 weeks' time, they actually have to come in with a translator. 2 weeks' time, they're giving an address in front of General Motors. Okay, with questions and answers, and they're able to do it completely. So yes, there's a commitment, there's an involvement there, but there's also all these other different ways that you can use it. Go ahead.
And now I remember when you say that, I remember Richard used to talk about that. If you're going overseas, let's say you're going to a foreign country with a foreign language, he says, photograph their dictionary first. You're going to have a lot easier time over there. And so, yeah, that's right. Now I remember that now. He said that.
Oh, yeah. And we have people, we have linguistic experts that have never been able to make certain breakthroughs before with whatever their studies hold. And then they turn around, these are language experts. They may be dealing with a little shred of paper from the 14th century that they haven't been able to decipher yet. And they'll come through our training, they'll get the training, and then they get the insights. And suddenly they get the insights as to what that shred of paper means, and they're able to translate it where they were never able to translate it before. And we see this happening again and again and again. Language changes over time. The frequency does not.
Yeah.
So whatever the mental state is, it is translated into the written word, and then that is something that you can read. It's indelible. It's forever.
And I think what's happening there is it goes beyond the subconscious mind. You are taught how to tap into the universal mind, where you have all past, present, and future solutions and answers, and they may be able to pull some of that.
Well, there's no such thing as time in how we relate to time.
Yeah.
Basically, Einstein is a favorite of mine, and he referred to time as being a place to put things on a shelf. It's easier to catalog things, and that's how we look at time. But our perception of time is simply controlled by the global consciousness. Mm-hmm. Time in itself really doesn't have any meaning in reality. And so we can actually go beyond that. So the amount of information that we have available to us and the amount of available information in the universe that we have available to us is unlimited. And we can take that over and over again. Whenever you have people that are inventing things, they're getting this spontaneous information from the universe directing them. Now, you may be amongst 4 million people that got that information. Let's say you're going to invent this super widget, mm-hmm. And in order to invent this super widget, you gotta consider all these people were fed this information instantaneously when it needed to come to the universe. Okay, fine. Yeah. But after you get through the people that toss out the information as, oh well, that's just frivolous, and then you get then you finally wheedle down to the people that can actually do the invention, the creation, and the marketing, and you only wind up with a select few people out of the first 4 million people that actually got the idea in the first place. And you'll say to yourself, gee, I had this great invention. I just saw it show up on my store shelf. Too bad I didn't invent it. Somebody else did. Mm. It happens all the time. Yep. So when it comes to what we have available to us, it is incredible. Yeah. Most people ignore it. Stop ignoring what the universe has created for you. The universe has created the human mind, and it is phenomenal. It is your choice whether you use it or not. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then using it or not using it is one thing, but using it wrong or not to its full potential, that's what most of us are doing, and that's what, we're taught how to do, I suppose. We're getting down to about a minute from the end of the show here, so any last message that you want to send to people before we end? The truth is out there. There's hope. If you think that all is lost, it never is. There is always a way, but you need superior information. Yeah. Again, my website address is ZOXMeNow, zox.me/now, and that link will take you over to the website, and you can view that. The main thing is it really comes down to each person, each individual. What are you going to do today? You want to keep your life the way it is, tinking along? Doesn't matter. You'll be one of the great unwashed, or you can change things. It's up to you. Yeah. That's a good thought to end it on, and we are here now coming down to the end of the Universal Consciousness Show, and also remember, we are a donation-based radio station, so if you like what you hear here, go down to the bottom of the page and click the donate button. It would really help the people behind the curtain here, the ones that you don't see or hear anything about, because they are making it all happen for us, so please remember that. And then we will be back next week.
And then, Shannon, thank you very much for joining us. And we will find a way to get back here on. I think we have talked on shows probably about 3 or 4 times by now. So we'll make it 5 here in the next few months. How about that?
Sounds great to me. Thank you for having me today, Aage.
All right. Thank you very much.
Diana.
And
Thank you. Thank you very much.
yeah, have a good day now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.